welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Broiler Chicken Show. Back. I never know how the hell to start these shows, but anyway, here we are. Boom, let's go. Well, interesting market that we have ourselves in. Actually, this room sounds really echoey. You got to put those silly sound barrier things up. Anyway, always a challenge. How I'm going to try and make a positive difference in your people's lives here today. And I suppose this is, I don't know, how would you describe this right now? It almost feels like we're in a transition window. Of course, we all know, thanks to our Benner cycles, big pivot coming in the market here for 26. There's also our inflationary studies from the last Great Reset. They really killed the local population in 47, 48 with a big whack of price inflation. Part of Klaus's Great Reset, all that. I actually would make the argument that I think the banksters are actually a little cross at Mr. Klaus for sort of spilling the beans as to their agenda here through this window. I did find it amusing a few months ago. I haven't heard anything since, but he was being investigated for, I don't know what the formal charge is, but long and short of it is you fuck with the 1%, the bankster crooks, whatever the hell you want to call them, the Illuminati, and they have a nasty way of coming back and biting you in the butt. So anyway, a wonderful time we live in. We'll say that the market just appears to be doing what markets do. It's not really like the market's going to go anywhere, but I wouldn't be surprised if actually on the back end of whatever this horrific nightmare over the next couple of years, I wouldn't even be surprised that there's a severe lack of interest in speculating in the market because nobody has any money. And I think that was one of the major impediments, hurdles, if you will, for this most recent, sort of speculative crypto cycle. Was, it turns out that money actually costs something when you have to pay like 4%. Venture cap people are a bit reluctant to go and borrow a whole bunch of money that they have to pay interest on to go and see if something sticks against the walls. So from my personal perspective, it doesn't really make a hill of beans a difference. But from my personal perspective, I don't actually see anything really shocking here. Disappointing, maybe. That's definitely a word you could use. Shocking? No, not really. So I also remember too, previous cycles around sort of similar times, I have a lot of new people coming into the market that don't fully appreciate how risky this business is and how difficult this business is actually making money from trading. And unfortunately, I think they're being sort of given a rude awakening here. At the same time, too, we all know the money printers are still going burr. Find it fascinating how the banksters have like instilled puppets of theirs. Like this is like the cabal puppets. And if you're a puppet of the cabal, you're probably pretty high up in sort of the public sort of standing. around the satanic, stuff, Jekyll Island, all that crap, right? You'd be sitting in the back, and they're probably standing or maybe on your knees with those people. And a minor character, but I could very easily see the guy that was put in charge of my country is kind of one of those puppets, and he's basically just doing what the puppet masters are telling them to do. And it's staggering because if anybody actually was like, oh, no, I'm a professor of economics, I'm a student of the market and capitalism and all that, would look at what these people are doing and just say, what the hell is going on here? Unless these people, the cabal, the puppet masters, this is all part of their plan. Every 100 years or so, they have to literally convince the humans to add a zero onto the end of all of their price tags. And if you don't like it, then you have a choice. You want your society to dissolve into civil war, and become sort of a backwater burg, and then the 1%, the cabal, will freeze you out until you get a political system that is more agreeable to their desires, aka Argentina. Pretty good example of that. And there's countless examples all across the world. So it's a weird thing. It's sort of like, I can understand why the public, to all intents and purposes, doesn't even really want to hear this message, because it's a pretty damn depressing message, the way the banksters have controlled this species. Sad, but that's kind of the danger of working with a guy like me. Um, when the market's a bull and when it's appropriate to make money, we can have great old times, and it's a lot of fun banging out doubles and, ooh, look at me, I'm just killing it, right? And all that, shopping for our Lambos and all that. I will say, I think I'm pretty happy I get my money in my wallet, and my bank accounts are still very healthy, rather than going and frivolously spending winnings on stupid things like sports cars that depreciate staggeringly. But anyway, that's just me. I mean, you see my image. I think I might in the new year actually even lose the scruff, maybe clean myself up a little bit. But I I get much greater fulfillment, joy, happiness when I look down at my bank statement and I see many zeros behind my balance. And I got this sweater. I got this sweater back in the 1980s. That's how long I've had this sweater. No, 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 no. Actually, I'm going to correct myself. I think I got it in like 1991. So it was right around the time when I met my wife. I'm so cheap that I don't even want to go get a haircut. Whenever I go get a haircut, I tell people I hate spending money on haircuts, so I only get my haircut like once every 6 months. And the last time I got my haircut was in Ave, Missouri, which was a really memorable experience, back in May. So I think it's about time I go and get off my wallet and get a goddamn haircut. But that's Brian. Brian's a weirdo. All right, cool. I think we'll make it like a regular occurrence that we take a road trip down to Sacramento for early February. I will say though, driving through where the hell was it? The mountain pass between California and Oregon gets a little tricky. Mind you, I did go and get new shoes for Lily's car. So I paid up a bit of money and got the all-weather tires. They're super, more money, of course, but for Lily. So actually, driving through those mountain passes in early February, not that bad of an idea again. Last year, I did it on all-season tires, Oh man, I was scared poopless going through those mountain passes. Anyway, well, there's a little bit of rhetoric to start your video. I don't know whether any value in anything I said there, but I sure hope so. Um, where on earth do we start our conversation this week? I suppose we could just take a look at sort of what's going on in the world, and does it sort of explain what the backdrop is? It's interesting to see a little bit of a disconnect between some of these high flying tech stocks that look to be topping out. Um, and the broader market, of course, we're heading full bore into earnings season now. And I do see that actually I'm surprised, like my funny little probably one of my best stock picks in the past year or two. I turned bullish on Intel back around 20 bucks, 21. I think my average cost for my retirement account is like 21 and a half or so, which means I do need to see the call it $43 to bang out a double there. But I'm pretty happy with that pick. It seems to have played out well. Also, too, I was begrudgingly, but along with TRI, bullish of that Alibaba. We made some pretty good money on that trade, so can't complain. But it does feel like maybe these tech stocks are getting a little bit ahead of themselves. I don't know. Call me crazy. I've been doing a bunch of selling, and of course, this audience, Bitcoin. We are coming into cycle pivots. Tech as a proxy of tech, of course, it's done pretty well. And actually, I've been rotating into some names that have been kind of beaten down of late. Paying some pretty good dividends, maybe as a place to hide over the next year or two. Will say, actually, I'm very pleased to see I put myself on and this is what I teach people. So, if anything, probably best that I be the demonstrator of best practices and do, practice what you preach. In the new year, I plan to get an income portfolio up and running through option strategies, specifically iron condors, wheel strategy, and bull call bear put spreads. And started the plan with the expectation I want to be live in January. Started about the middle of the summer, and actually very, very pleased with the way that's going. So super excited to share all that with you in the new year. So lots of stuff on the go. I will say though that I wouldn't be surprised once we get through about middle of 2026. Things like capital gains, I think, are going to be a little bit tough to come by in the market. So be forewarned. I don't necessarily think that you can stop what Mr. Trump has done here since April on a dime. I think it's got a bit of this market has a bit of inertia behind it. We'll have to start seeing things like, weekly divergences and stuff on the major indexes before we start barking about tops. And if anything, to put a top in, what you actually have to do is you have to get the market all frothy bullish, no fear in anybody's eyes. And all you hear from the public is how easy it is to get rich in whatever respective market you're talking about. And of course, they just go and blindly buy, and they're, of course, buying the tops. I remember Gucci sweater wear references in the past. That's a really good reference for you. And frankly speaking, I don't think we actually even had that kind of environment in the crypto space this particular cycle, which actually leads me to believe that I think we could probably see new highs on both Bitcoin and on the shalt coins before this nonsense is over. It would not shock me one bit. Um, and then, yeah. So, given the backdrop, given the insane uncertainty about this world that we live in, given the fact that people that are in political power are trying really hard to disrupt the system and break the system as much as possible, it doesn't really surprise me that we're going to be going through, seeing what gold is doing right now. It doesn't really surprise me. I don't really like it. I think it's very bad leadership. And my hunch is 10, 20 years from now, we'll look back and lament about the horrific leadership through this window. We'll see what the outcome is. It's interesting how there were omens about things like Mr. Trump being the last president of the United States. And I'll tell you, with every single passing day, it's getting a little bit more sketchy out there. And I'm also quite surprised to see the irresponsible behavior out of politicians, Mr. Trump included. Um, I mean, this kind of reminds me of the days of Hitler and the way that he would just go around barking what he desired to happen, and then of course using military force to exude that. Nothing about democracy, nothing about sort of individual rights. All that stuff's just gone on the back burner. Very scary times we're living in. So back to our overview here. Sorry, I have a bad habit of getting derailed here. It sounds to me like, based on what our artificial intelligence bots and Chris's work with them producing this little summary, mixed bag in earnings, some outperforming, some underperforming. Tech stocks do look a little bit heavy. I might also argue too, while it's not really a trading catalyst, you can definitely see that there is sort of an artificial market being built here around all these AI companies and expectations. Actually, I think I shared it with the TRI community yesterday, but maybe I didn't. But I watched a really good video by a gentleman that I think has got a pretty good head on his shoulders. Although I'm not quite sure where he is. Yeah, I guess I didn't share it at TRI. Actually, you know where I probably put it was over on this Twitter thing. Yeah, this guy. I thought this gentleman did a really good summary. So you can listen to the Beamish and he rants about his country and all that, or you can listen to like a real trading professional and his explanation of I mean, I think probably if we just look at like some of these big tech stocks, you just look at them and you go, yeah, this kind of makes sense. Actually, that's a little, that's not the screen I wanted to show. That was a cute little panic accumulator signal that worked out pretty damn good. Well, what's the screen I want here? Yeah, I guess this is it. If we look at, I thought it was interesting. One of the biggest tech stocks around, good old Meta. I mean, gee whiz, you look at that chart and you go, am I supposed to be a bit cautious when I see smiles? So, that's a bit concerning. I suppose maybe you go, but there's a W over here, Brian. So I don't know. I'd probably say that's more range than anything else, but wow, that sure looks dangerous. And then that Netflix, same sort of thing. Looking very, very heavy here. So, also too, something that really jumped out at me, which I was quite surprised about, was this current quarter's first 2 week study. What are we supposed to be expecting for the quarter coming up? Usually I have to refresh this. Oh boy, look at that. What the heck's going on here? Hey, there you go. So if we just look at what this quarter is giving us so far, there is the quarter so far. You can see they are selling off this stuff, discretionary and communication services. I suppose that's that meta. Um, if we just look at the first couple weeks of the quarter, which is kind of our little sort of little cheat for what the institutional players are doing. There was this sort of official first 2 weeks till the 10th of October. And wow, what the heck's going on here? You know, because keep in mind the first, even the whole quarter previously. Maybe that'd be a better image to show you. How are we gonna do that? Let's go like that. So July 1st, July, August, September. So there was basically the previous quarter's report, which showed money flowing into discretionary and technology for that quarter, which is kind of like over here. And then what the hell just happened? You notice that if we go to the first 2 weeks study of this quarter, sort of like what they're thinking this quarter is going to look like. Wow, something dramatically shifted here. So there's that. Now you can see they're getting the hell out of these sectors and they're piling into these sectors, staples, healthcare, utilities, which is way over here. So what the hell happened? We like literally jumped right over the industrials, the materials, the energies. We're sort of like, are we here? No, we're kind of thinking we're over here now. It's like, what the hell's going on? I suppose you could argue that the Fed down in the States, I think they would personally prefer to keep rates as high as possible, try and get in front of this inflation problem. But wow, politicians have completely politicized the Fed. And I get the impression that they've basically been told you better play ball or we're going to throw you in jail. And of course, Taco is trying to throw as many of them in jail as possible, finding anything. Now I think it's like mortgage insurance fraud. They're going after some of them. I'm sure it's making Jerry's life a lot harder. So very interesting data. I've frankly speaking, I've never seen this happen before, where we just completely jump from one sort of expected market sort of look to complete opposite. Like we completely missed early recovery and bull market. What happened? I mean, was that meme stock rally? Was that the bull market? Now it's over? Oh man. Anyway, market top, where like the economy's absolute best it can be. And now the fund managers are kind of thinking, oh boy, it can only get worse from here. Oh boy, I don't know. So anyway, and if anything, this is a perfect analogy of the complete lack of leadership in our society, and the market itself, lack of leadership, you know, from the federal government down in the States, and just basically telling you, fuck you, you want the data, you want to know what the economy is doing. There's my, you know what, get down on your knees and beg. And of course, you better bring your pet checkbook too. I don't care how whether you have skills, let's call them. Money talks in this administration. End of conversation. So anyway, Brian a bit being cheeky. This does surprise me quite a bit. And I'm sitting here left scratching my head going, what on earth is going on? And I would imagine, you know, seeing gold prices doing what they're doing right now, I would imagine there's a lot of market participants that are like, you know what? I don't know what the hell this idiot's doing to us. I'm just going to go park myself in gold, bury my head in the sand, and somebody come and poke me on the butt when this clown's done. and we'll see what the hell the world looks like on the other side of it. I can completely understand that. And frankly speaking, I could completely understand people going like all in on Bitcoin through all of this too. Um, just because it's kind of chaos out there. I mean, the irony of it all, and I tell people this, is if you are a stock market bull, ironically enough, the last thing in the world you really want to see is a bullish bond market. This message here is actually bearish of the economy and bearish of growth. And I'm just going to go buy my bond, sit on my yield, and watch the world melt down around us. Anyway, I think there are plenty of warning signs that there is trouble with this economy. Um, I do think that the traders back at the beginning of the year kind of anticipated that there's probably going to be some trouble. It's interesting how I get the impression that the market right now is getting bid up on some sort of hope that Trump going over there and having a meeting with Winnie the Pooh is going to solve the world's problems. Um, I don't know if it is or it isn't, or if it makes any difference. It was interesting how heading into the fall here, the traders back in the beginning of the year were looking for some trouble heading into the end of the year. And we did get like a little bit of a warning shot across the bow. Dow dropped like 800 points there recently. But you can see the up only market. This study had suggested back in January they weren't going to be able to recover to new highs, but you can see market will do any old damn thing it wants. That's the way it goes. But I'm a little bit concerned about this image because if we look at some of the internal studies, they're flashing warning signs. So this is this goes back all the way to good old Mr. Charles Henry Dow, 100 years ago, if not more, and his Dow theory, where the transports need to confirm a breakout in the industrials, or this is actually a Dow theory sell signal. So that's just one thing that's sort of like, hey, there's something not right about this rally. And you can see in the past, I guess this isn't the best example, but market was pressing higher. There's some pretty good examples in here. Guess you could make an example here. Dow's pressing higher, transports are not, and there had to be some resolution. Of course, I'm just doing this on the fly, so that very rarely works on the fly. Here's a good example. Dow was pressing higher. Transports were not going to new highs, and we had to roll over. So I don't know how the hell this is going to end. Here's another example. Dow's pressing to new highs. Transports are not going to new highs, and we had to roll over. So I don't know when the hell this resolves itself, but it is warning us. This transports is having a hard time here. And Mr. Dow himself would be like, that's problematic. So whether it be things like the January barometer, whether it be things like Dow theory, there's trouble brewing. That's probably the way I would describe it. We as traders, we just have to go with the chalk marks. And I'm not really getting any outright M's here, and maybe what we're doing is we're carving out divergence. Actually, that might be interesting just to see. I don't think we're there yet, but we might be. Actually, I was really stoked about this tool that I saw on TradingView recently. Jim and Liz, I don't know whether you know Ed or not, but actually, I don't think I can show you off this time frame. But if I go down to a lower time frame, oh, this beautiful. Actually, I don't have it on this one, do I? Let's go with that. Oh, isn't that interesting? Wonder if this even has it in it. Anyway, total side topic. Um, Pulling up TPO charts on TradingView. They actually look pretty good right now, so I'm super excited to use that. Where do I have that stuff? Over here. This chart. Oh, I'm so excited. So if you use TPOs, I was super excited to see this on TradingView now. So Ed, if you're watching, oh boy, we got a lot of fun in the day trader room coming up here. So anyway, this is a module that we do in our level 3 program. And I haven't been able to do this on TradingView in the past, but I'm super excited to see that now. So anyway, total side topic. That's for the trading nerds. If you really want to nerd out on charts. Oh man, I love that TPO on there on TradingView now. Anyway, where was I? Talking a bit about broader market. So, we are pressing higher here. I mean, all of us should look at that chart and go, oh boy, that's got trouble written all over it. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to just see whether we had any divergence starting to build yet. And I suppose the top will come when we start seeing, things like RSI, M's, and all that kind of talk. This is the daily chart. Let's maybe go out to a weekly view. All right, so you can already start to see RSI is in divergence here on the weekly charts. That's got to be bothersome. My favorite momentum indicator for measuring divergence is the MACD. And what I often see with MACD is we can get things like head and shoulders is. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to do something like that here in the near term. How long lasting this rally is, I don't know. But if you're looking for catalyst in the market to signal change, as I said there earlier, Trump is planning on some sort of big meeting with the Chinese premier. Although I have seen lots of talk about Xi's in quite a bit of trouble there over in China. But Willie's stupid on the weekly charts. The writing's on the walls. And we do already start to have some divergence starting to build here in RSI. It's not enough for me to get like uber bearish. I'm actually a bit surprised that this didn't roll over harder than it did. But I suppose in this up only market state, although I don't know what the hell BYMA is, I might be looking at the wrong damn thing here. I don't know why TradingView does that. Anyway, that's a better chart. Sorry, folks. Ah, wow. Okay. Now this is actually more interesting. So on this weekly basis, you can see we're nowhere. We're just getting back up into overbought, but we are massively in divergence there. And there is the MACD divergence that actually I'd like to see, although I would prefer that to be a little bit more well-defined. Give me a nice clear M here. But nonetheless, MACD is in divergence. And of course, there's Willie Stupid. So everything is in place. I suppose what I would expect to set up a trade would be for RSI to start Ming out here. And the second M is my sort of signal, kind of like what you see in here. Where's the two M's? There's one M, there's a second M. See you later. And down you go. So I would need something like this to develop in that RSI to actually trigger the actual sell signal. And I don't quite have that. And this is a weekly chart, right? So this will take some time. And I do think that this will probably drag on into 2026. It might even go on into the spring, So no sell signal there per se. but way, way too late for anybody to be a buyer here. And I suppose this is a really good example that you're like, well, Brian, I mean, gee whiz, what am I supposed to do here? Sit and do nothing? Well, you got to wait for Willie to get out of that overbought condition. And ironically enough, when Taco did his stupidness there back at the beginning of the year, I actually think that that was actually totally programmed and totally pre-planned. Why? Look how absolutely textbook this Wyckoff check was. I mean, like literally, the Basant guy is basically running the U.S. Treasury. I'm a risk manager guy. So, I mean, this is basically his bread and butter, right? You got to somehow, when markets are overbought on a weekly basis, you got to just somehow just say, I just got to cool my jets and I got to wait for whatever the hell this is. Yeah, that's just the way the markets go. I suppose, as long as this is pointing higher, you can continue hunting your setups. But just understand, the further and further and further this goes, the sort of, you've heard me talk about breadth, the number of stocks that push these indexes higher and higher and higher, it thins out and it gets less and less and less and less until one day so many stocks in the market are actually pointing down. All it takes is somebody to sneeze, say something wrong, and the whole damn house of cards falls in. So I don't know what the hell I'm saying here. I guess the point, I suppose, is a couple weeks ago we did have that sort of initial shot across the bow. Didn't really translate into anything, but I could very easily see that when this thing does decide to roll over, we probably have a date with this 1.618 again. Probably have to go up and tag that 2.618. Now, that would actually be logical. Good old Mr. Foggenbaum. So anyway, interesting chart. And the weird thing is I actually was pretty convinced that things like Intel here were done. And then Intel comes out with its earnings on Friday. I mean, not really the prettiest of candles, but nonetheless, it is a bullish candle. And painting higher highs. I suppose this totally is setting up divergence. Yeah, you can see it. Uglier than spit. Willie's stupid. Nobody's got any reason to buy this thing up here, but my target has been 50% retracement of that range all along. And I think that this thing really wants to point up there. So that's a pretty good example of how there are markets that are still making higher highs and higher lows. And, on balance, things don't look terrible here. Although there's no way in hell I could buy this thing right now. And I think there's a lot of these tech stocks that look like this. Very, very overextended. And I think you could make the argument to a certain degree, this is how a lot of things like Bitcoin look like. Interesting thing with crypto, though, is a lot of the shit coins don't look like this whatsoever. In fact, they look the exact opposite. So it's like the junior market was just left behind this particular cycle. And unless you're in like meme stocks, there are some fun little memes that are running right now. On balance, most of the junior stock market is kind of just floundering. So anyway, this is sort of the ultimate leading indicator for the stock market. This is the semiconductor index. So if you're looking for signs for failure, this is usually going to be the place where you first see it. And as you can see with that Intel number, and AMD jumped up violently higher. We broke to new highs here recently. So I don't see the failure here just yet. It's just not materializing. So anyway, it is what it is. We will go higher until we don't. Not quite sure where to take this conversation next. I think probably that's about it for the broader market. I guess we could talk a little bit about crypto stocks, since this is kind of along the direction of this crypto show. Mind you, this isn't really crypto show. It's sort of everything. I was pleased to see that my little Bed Bath and Beyond, which was the old Overstock, and they had that big crypto exposure in years gone by. So I still do think to a certain degree that it is a half decent crypto proxy. It had a pretty nice run up here with the rest of the crypto stocks. Bit of a slide recently, and it was sort of like, okay, well, is this move done? Interesting that we were able to come back down against key support and hold that low and now put in a little bit of a W. It's not the best looking W, gaps everywhere, so I don't know whether we're ready to rock and roll here or not. Bigger sort of proxies in the space, things like Coinbase. Pretty big jump there on Friday. Joby Gap setup. We used to call this on the site Doji Gap. But if we can trade up through these highs tomorrow, and it does look like when we get to the Bitcoin charts, I think they're pointing higher right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if this does fire. That Doji Gap setup. And if you are learning about how to trade, learning setups, take a screenshot of that. That's a really, really good setup. It's just a 2 bar setup. It's clean, it's simple. If we trade through this high, then that's a measured move, and we should expect an equal distance up top here, which literally means that Coinbase is basically saying, I want to go right back up to the old highs. So go figure. I think you could also make the argument when we look at things like the Bitcoin ETF. I think it also suggests that we want to go to new highs. Um, I don't know whether this thing will get to new highs. Wicks and tails like to be eaten. There's a ton of trap bulls up there. So I wouldn't be surprised if they would like to try and at least get it back up into this area here. And then we'll cross the following respective bridge when we come to it. I get the impression a bit of a megaphone here. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of resistance once we get into reload zones and all that kind of talk. Um, I think you could actually, scarily enough, I think you could actually draw there to there. Um, I don't know whether I would go off of that one or not, but the point here, we're seeing a lot of this higher highs, lower lows, which means expanding range, means expect more volatility. And if we go doink, doink, interesting confluence of trend lines, that's going off of these previous peaks. So sure looks to me like if we do decide to accept higher in earnest, we're going to have a pretty big fight up at this 4669. Seems logical. I guess I was also looking at some sort of inverted head and shoulders down here. And if you think measured move, I don't know whether that target was hit on that, maybe. Um, this to me sure looks like a range, and it looks like a very, very wide range. Um, Wouldn't be surprised if we tick back up into this wick, which would take us back into this original reload zone, which means, probably into the end of the year. Well, I mean, it's what is it? It's the middle of October, so maybe end of year talk is a little premature. But into the end of October, maybe beginning first week of November, I wouldn't be surprised to see up here. And of course, the big question that I have, and I suppose we'll talk more about this when we get to Bitcoin, is where the hell does that guy who gave Alan that through $3,000 or $4,000 to ask his stupid computer when Bitcoin's going to hit 400,000? Does he get his money back? If Bitcoin doesn't hit that crazy ass target? I'm not quite sure how any of that would work. Probably the guy's SOL. So this doesn't really suggest that $400,000 price objective for November 2nd, but it is suggesting that heading into that, maybe we'll even put it as a note on the screen. Somewhere in there. Um, this is suggesting that market does look like it wants to point up into that first week of November window. If I'm not mistaken, too, I think there was supposed to be a lot of sort of deadlines for tariffs and all that kind of crap with China as of the 1st of November. And previously to all this announcement of trade talks are progressing, there's a lot of people out there going, man, shit's going to hit the fan here first week of November. So maybe that's what the market's also seeing there too. Maybe a little bit of buy the rumor, a bit of hope that maybe Trump can finagle some sort of deal here that calms the world risk markets. I don't know. Well, we'll see. Um, Other sort of bigger proxies in the crypto space, the miners. Get the impression that, maybe we went through kind of like almost like a blow off top there. Things kind of went a bit parabolic and we had huge, never ending bull markets. And then boom, a big old fat outside downside key reversal. Stop that bull in its tracks. It didn't really take too long for us to sort of stabilize here. I don't know whether I necessarily have a quote unquote buy signal with this price action here. Moving averages are still pointing up though. So, I mean, there's no real technical breakdown here. I mean, we do have an outside downside key reversal. I can't argue that. I do have a double top breakdown. Can't argue that. I would just say that this thing is still consolidating until we actually get a W on the other side of this trend line. So we gapped higher through that. And, based on Joby gaps and, the way Bitcoin price is acting, it looks like the market's going to be firmer here. But I can't really get bullish on something like this until I see some sort of bullish structure here. So, and then also too, we look at the momentum of a lot of these names. I think you're asking for trouble coming in on the buy side here. That's just me. Of course, I'm a chicken shit by nature, so I don't really like to take a lot of unnecessary risk. Oh, pretty weekly chart. You can see the weekly W staring us in the face here. This actually looks like it's going to make a monthly W now, so that's interesting. Boom. Yeah, there it is. You know what? This chart looks like God, I remember I used to show these charts all the time in the schoolroom, hunt weekly W's, right? This looks like ETC. That's what I want to say. This looks like Silbert. And nobody talks about ETC anymore, right? I wonder whatever happened to him. Anyway, I suppose you could argue if you wanted to be a buyer, there's your reload zones. There's Brian 78.6 against that $7.47 area. Man, I think I've officially told everybody that I am no longer a crypto bull. I'm more than happy to shill you my bags if you want to take the market higher, but I'm not going to be doing any more buying in this space. So off of like a monthly basis, the crypto window goes back into buy mode as of November of next year, not this year, next year. And that goes on right through to about the middle of 2027. So this is a really good example where I have no idea what this is going to look like here in the near term, but I'd be more than happy to be reacquiring all through that window there. It's pretty straightforward. If I do just a simple trend line, something like that, I don't need to overthink this stuff. So somewhere down in here, but there's no way in hell I'm going to buy that there, especially with this monthly chart. Now, having said that, could we get a candle like this? Could we get a candle like this? Maybe 2 or 3 candles again? Sure. We're going to do any old damn thing at once. And we are in, I spent the first 10, 15 minutes of this video talking about how absolutely stupid this market state is right now and how there's no leadership, and the leadership that is in charge is literally trying to undermine the system. So yeah, I mean, this is officially cats and dogs are living together kind of market state. Anything can happen in this market state. But for me to come in and actually buy right there, no, can't do that at all. That might be all right. Can you come in and buy right here and the damn thing doubles, maybe even more than that from that level? But, I'm a risk manager, right? Man, I think you all should respect our job as risk managers. If I buy right here, that means I have to risk all the way down to here. So it's quite literally just a coin toss, risk versus reward. I can't take those kind of trades, folks. I'm sorry. I have to force myself to come in and hunt against bottom ends of ranges so that my relative risk window is smaller than my relative outperformance return window. So, that's what the longer term chart looks like for something like Riot. If we go down to that daily chart, um, there is that monthly buying zone, and here we are way up top here. Hopefully you all look at this and go, yeah, I can completely understand why that Brian guy can't buy there. There's just no way in hell I could. And the sad part about it, Brian in his 78.6 is you can see that there are price caps down here. And, the weird thing is this is the only business when stuff goes on sale and we have to go through a bear slide. It's very typical bear windows. Nobody wants to buy this stuff. So when we do actually work our way back down, fill in the gaps and stuff, the place will be dead quiet. It always is. It's the exact same thing. So I don't know whether there's a top here or not. I would just simply say, location, indicator confirmation, price structure. The fact that this did actually break out through these highs, that's a relatively good sign. So, higher time frames, I think you have a structurally bullish case to make. You can see we came up against a key horizontal support and resistance level. My hunch here is we have to take that level out. And actually, I've been doing this a lot recently in the futures markets, is I will just simply go back and hunt for horizontal support and resistance. And then I'm just going to simply ask, what is the range just prior to that horizontal support and resistance? If we actually look at this from maybe a weekly chart, you can see this a little better. Oh, it disappeared. Oh, well. But that's basically here down to here. So my feeling here, and I've been doing this in the futures markets a lot lately because it's a very handy little gauge, is I'll let the market trade back to that level. And then this now, whatever the range prior to this level, this actually now becomes my trading range where I would fully expect support on this chart to come in off of these lows. And then, so kind of like, you can think of like there to there to there to there to there to there. So I would expect the exact opposite of what happened there. So there to there to there to there to there to there. I don't know whether it's going to look like that or not. I have no idea. Maybe this is the extent of the correction into the end of this window. That could easily be the case. In fact, I actually really like the idea when we get to Bitcoin. I don't think there's going to be any sort of crash here. I think what ends up happening here is because the rally was relatively muted, the sell-off's actually going to be relatively muted. And our next cycle window, like I said, starts on Bitcoin itself right here or thereabouts. Where's our window? September 21st. So that's way over here. All right, we can say BTC 4-year cycle pivot. You can even start that kind of talk. Um, maybe all this does is it just does a rounding top. I mean, you can kind of see we go like that, and does that just replicate? And we do that. That wouldn't surprise me. So, and keep in mind too, right? Fink and his whole ETF crew, they certainly do not want to see negative balances on their buying into this crazy ETF, crazy Bitcoin story. So my hunch is there is probably a very solid floor here on Bitcoin around that 38,500 area. But I wouldn't even be surprised if we just sort of settle down into here in some big FU candle. And what a surprise, reload zones are sitting. This looks a bit old, but I think I did it actually I didn't do the reload zone. I just did the pump chaser zone. But I suppose here we could probably add this on here. There, on there. Right, so, oh, got to move this up a little bit. Yeah. So, and I also like this too. Wow, this lines up so perfectly because I'm a huge fan of 78.6, if you haven't noticed over the years. And I also noticed too that quite often Bitcoin will retrace about 80% of whatever its rally peak is here. So if our peak was 130, let's call it, what is that, 120 something? 125, then 80% of 125 would be 12, would be all right, I can get the damn calculator out. 125 times point. Let's go. Well, we'll just do 8. Nice and simple. It's 100. So that actually means 25 grand as your bottom. What's that number there? 30 grand, 40 grand? I've done something wrong here. Oh, that's what it is. Silly bug. It's 80% correction off of whatever the low is. So actually, Mr. Gann, if you're a fan of him, he would just simply say you take whatever the high is, 50% level, just take whatever the high is and divide by 2. So natural retracement, this last cycle peak was what, 67? Is that what that says up there? Looks like that's that high there. I thought we got a little higher there. There's 69 there. 69 divided by 2, it's 35,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. So that was back in this area. So that would be like Mr. Gann's natural 50% retracement in that area. Turns out we had to actually go quite a bit more, back to 78.6. Hey, what a surprise. So I like 40 G's as a pullback number here, and that would be right into the ETF lows. Mr. Fink will not allow any of the institutional players who actually funded the purchase of this ETF to actually see negative balances, but of course, all the public being encouraged to pile into their 401ks and stuff up top here, the public will suffer for lack of a better term. It's just business as usual. So I feel pretty confident that whatever this correction window is, 78.6 is, there's a 200 period moving average on the weekly chart. That's usually a very good value gauge. So if that is the top 126 and change, 50% of that would be what, 63. So that would bring us down into this area, sort of like your correction. Interesting, that would just do nothing more than bring us back down into those historical breakout levels. And the final capitulation washout through into this window. And actually, I do like that as well. All this is going to be doing is just tagging this trend line and this trend line from the other side. So I can see what sort of the ultimate bottom of this correction looks like. I just don't know whether we've actually topped here yet or not. I mean, we did hit our cycle peak. We did hit 1.382. So if this is the cycle and that's it, well, it is what it is. You just gotta live by the sword, die by the sword. As I put out in the video, or the tweet, the summary, I even said, well, that was a pretty damn disappointing crypto cycle. What the fuck? But unfortunately, in this game, you cannot push a chain. You can set yourself up to be in the position to take advantage of these things. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But if the market just doesn't want to do it, the market's just not going to do it. There's no way you can force the issue. So as I said here, after a disappointing cycle pivot, we now appear to be in a range where the institutional fingerprints define the extremes. So in the near term, I actually think that this is our trading range. And it makes sense. V tops and V bottoms like to be tested. We have a V top, we have a V bottom. You can see how this V bottom had to be tested, and sure enough, they actually blasted through it. It does look like we have finally sort of found some sort of capitulation low, and we are now moving sort of back up into the middle of the range. The question ultimately was, where was this low going to be established? It was pretty nasty, but it was last week, so we do have a full week of inside price action here. I think this is actually one of these opportunities that actually makes it fairly simple for us. When you get these big one directional moves and then an inside bar, I don't know where this candle here finishes today. Hell, we might even be up breaking previous week's candle highs by the end of this candle here today. I don't know. But what I would just simply say, and all of you can do this, just grab your weekly price chart, wherever this candle body's, candle wick's high is, and last week's wick low, there's your bull bear battle lines, as I like to tell you guys. So, and also too, this works out well that, wherever this high is, notice that's right up against the 13 EMA here. It's also against this trend line. So what this candle is basically saying is if we do accept above this candle on the print, whenever this starts, I think it's in about 4 hours or so, 4 or 5 hours, then we have what's called an inside bar, which is bullish. And because this is a V top and it was basically straight down in a weird sort of way, look left, there's going to be a little bit of a fight at last week's candle wick high, whatever that number is there. And I think if we look at the lower time frame charts, there's a big gap right here. So that does kind of make sense. But look left, if we can bust through that, it's just a straight line move right back up to the highs. And I actually do like in the near term, and just show, maybe I had it on here. The question is, which one do I want to do? I think I was doing it off of this one. All right, I don't see any gaps here, but this is the index. Might have been off of like the tethers or something like that. I can't remember which one it was. No, I don't see it. All right, disregard that. I guess just the point. I guess that was the high there, right? Was that 114.080? What's this high? 116.035. So not quite the same. Where's that? That's up there. Yeah. Okay, so I wouldn't be surprised, and interesting how this is that 1.382 cycle. Actually, this is cool because I don't know whether you're familiar with billiard ball theory. But it would make absolute perfect sense that this candle here would be the middle of the billiard ball. I don't know how to show you this. I think I have the picture somewhere on my Twitter feed, but no, this is something totally different. It's so hard to find these damn things when you go back over time. I don't know what this is in reference to. The billiard fractals. Nah, then you get just lost in a sea of how frustrating. I think. Hello, Sting B. Sting B says, "Hey, BB." All right, how are we gonna do this? CR investor and fractal. And I hate how Twitter does this now. So it used to be that would just give me a nice little list of everything there. Now I have to go like advanced search. And then maybe go like that. And then take that out. Then go down here. Hey, there we go. So this is called a billiard ball fractal, eh? Kind of crazy. What does chaos look like? What does randomness look like? It's actually not very random after all. I'm kind of thinking that our image kind of looks like that. So let's take that. And we'll copy that. And where were we? Over here. Is this the one? Maybe it's, yeah, it was over here. So can you see this image? It's upside down though. How do I rotate this? Can I rotate this? Oh, damn. I can't. Oh, fudge. Oh, well. How do I do this? Let's go here. 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 There we go. And let's see what happens when we do that. Hey, yay. All right. So can you see this almost like right here? That's pretty cool. So I don't know. Glass Insights, you're live with me here. Can you see this? Anybody on YouTube? I don't know whether you guys can see this. I don't know how delayed it is. But this is pretty cool. Learn something new every day. So notice this part here, that's here to here. Then this part here, that's there to there. Then this part here, that's there to there. Then this part here is right here. Then this part here is there to there. Then this part here, this implies that we should probably come up into this area. So make a note of that on your charts. That's that 116.055 number we talked about earlier. And then that means we should come back down to here. And remember that 30-minute reference that I was talking about earlier that I, well, not 30 minutes, but the futures markets. And now once we hit this level, I look on the other side of whatever that price action is. And this is actually my trading range. So that means once we hit that, we could very easily come all the way back down here. And then once that's done, and who knows how big this correction is, it might only be back to this line. But the point is this is what we should be expecting after we've hit this level. And then look at what happens on the other side. That is a move all the way up to there. So that's what I think is happening here in the market. And I think actually the milliard of the middle, the middle of the billiard ball fractal. Oh boy, trying to say that 10 times fast is basically that right there. That is super cool. Wow, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit crazy. Eight ball. What's the magic eight ball say? Isn't that's pretty trippy, eh? Oh, there you go. There's you guys sit here and you patiently wait for some sort of value nuggets, something that this clown's gonna say that gee whiz, maybe I can actually learn something new about TA, and boom, there you go. Merry Christmas. You all just got rewarded for your efforts. So that's probably even worth just noting on the old social media. Where the hell's that? I don't know which one it is. Is it this one? Hey, there we go. We'll say BTC, Bitcoin. An interesting billiard ball fractal reviewed in today's what is this, BCS. Actually, I think you know what we're gonna do. Chris and I were kicking this around. I think what I'd like to do is have a naming contest of what Brian's Sunday show should be called. And I tell you what, I will form it over the next few months. In January, of course, I'm leaving, heading off on my own direction. And Broiler Chickens is a reference to my days of being a futures trader. So I don't know, way before the days of TRI. I don't know whether I want to just leave this name behind as a sort of a touchstone of this TRI experience, or whether I do like the idea of coming up with a fun name for these weekend shows that I do with the public. And if anything, if you have a suggestion, maybe I'll throw, I don't know, a year's subscription into whatever service that I run in the future. I have a Substack page that we'll probably do something with in the future. So maybe if you have a suggestion for a fun name for these weekend shows, and we'll move away from the put it in the comment. We could call it the Gucci sweater wearers show, sure. But put a comment in here so I can read it later on. I don't know what the appropriate course of action here is. But I'd kind of like to leave it open to, we have definitely a core of people that really do like to listen to my offerings on a regular basis. And I have a feeling that that core group will move on with me. So if anything, I'd like to leave things like the naming of these weekend shows to the core group, right? To our core followers. So, leave a comment of a name that maybe you might suggest. But anyway, back to our conversation here. I do actually kind of like that billiard ball fractal. And, for anybody watching this, I'll just put this out on Twitter or whatever. You all watching this understand that this left leg might not be nearly as deep as this, this right leg here might not be nearly as deep as this left leg here, but you get the idea. And really, the concept here is, do you notice that there's a W within the context of a bigger M within the context of a bigger W? It's the only way I know how to describe this finding is that this is the way randomness actually resolves itself in this universe. It has to make these very predictable harmonic patterns, for lack of a better term. Although I don't know whether this would actually fall under the category of harmonics, or whether there's a different name for fractals. But I am kind of, when I saw that image, this image just jumped out at me. So anyway, we'll keep that on the screen, see how it plays out here. So I think the way that I'm looking at this right now is, as this image describes, I actually think that this is an expanding trading range, which is difficult, right? We can think of things like megaphones, right? You could probably put that megaphone icon on here. I'll never know where the hell these things are. There it is there. Something like that. Dun, 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 dun. I don't have a problem with the market actually working its way right back up to new highs. And really, we still have this AB equals CD has not been invalidated yet. Yes, we did take out this low, but we did not take out this low. So this ABCD is still alive. These littler ABCDs, they're gone with this low being taken out here. I still am not what's the word I'm looking for? I'm still open to us working our way up into these original price objectives. I don't think that the parabolic kind of conversation is still on the table. I mean, like I said, that guy spent all that money on that Allen AI thing. And also, too, they actually did a study of AI recently. And keep in mind, folks, the study of AI actually confirmed that there is an inherent bias in the answers that AI gives you, based on the sort of the path of the questions that you give AI. It actually frames the answers that it gives you based on sort of the tone and direction that you question these things. So, as I had said earlier, I shared. I don't know whether I shared with you on the Twitter feed this this I thought very, very good interview. This guy's smarter than a whip, well, way smarter than I'll ever be. And it was very interesting listening to how this whole AI conversation, yes, it probably is going to frame our future, but it's very much like, I remember at the beginning of the dot-com boom days, everybody went out and just mad scrambled, just registered domain names. And it was a great way to get rich really quickly. As big corporations came in and just blindly bought things like quotes.com or pets.com, or just these domain names that were perceived to be valuable, and frankly speaking, they would be even today. But there really was no business model around that. You certainly didn't have a sustainable business model, just keep registering domain names. And there had to be the dot-com washout, the bust. Ironically enough, we don't even talk about the bust of the dot-com bubble anymore. Everything is instantly directed toward the war on terror. And well, it turns out this time it was different and all that nonsense, but actually it was exactly the same as always. So I do think that there is a similar situation happening in this AI space, where companies and the humans, and keep in mind, companies are made up of board of directors, and those boards of directors are all humans. So really, there's not much difference, whether it be a government body or like the Fed or corporations. I mean, the way the humans act is basically going to dictate how they act, too. So, in China to here, for example, all these stupid idiots went absolutely full blown stupid insanity into this real estate bubble here in this country. And all of the banks all went full blown stupid into the real estate industry. All of the governments went full blown stupid into this real estate bubble. I mean, it's the same shit. It always plays out the exact same way. So, what this gentleman's pointing out here is that, yeah, AI is probably going to take a lot of jobs and it's going to completely change the fabric of Western civilization. Did find it interesting. I heard recently that Vladdy's actually turning the internet off in Russia right now. So there are parts of the world, aka not Western civilization, that are actually moving backwards right now. Go figure. Um, but in Western civilization here, I do believe there's a bit of a trap being laid with all this AI crap. And now, Oracle's a good example where it turns out that they're actually funding the AI development with debt. And now the debt levels of these companies are starting to get a little bit ridiculous. So it's, ironically enough, history's just repeating itself. So be careful and certainly don't get blindly bought in. I think a pretty good example, although it's so funny when I review this because I never know whether this is actually an AI company or not, or whether they make something in that space. But this company, I think, was a good example. It was moving up on this AI boom. There's a weekly price chart, but there's your daily price chart. What a big surprise Brian's going to be selling into the strength. But I mean, you can see where this stuff's going to come back down to. So, and ironically enough, this is kind of the same image as people like Tom Lee. I might argue that the exact same thing is happening in crypto stocks. That happens every cycle. And when this frivolity, stupidity, irrationality is finished, you can see exactly where this thing's got to come back down to. I don't think it's today. I don't even think it's tomorrow. I would, in fact, this is probably one where we should put those September 26 references, because that would be when I would expect these things to get down into here. So that's the buying window starts somewhere in here and goes on through 27. So that's the buying window. So something like this up in here with this huge gap on the charts, yeah, the writing's on the walls, folks. It definitely is on the walls. The only problem is nobody wants to listen, right? Anyway, so same sort of thing with the QS. I think that this whole AI sort of story, great, but this stock was like, $3-4 there just back in the spring, and here it is $16-17. Not realistic growth. I mean, is that 1 unit of price for 1 unit at a time, as Mr. Gann would suggest? I don't think so. Could we very easily find ourselves back down here within a year or two? Yeah, I think so. So I guess I can't remember how I got off on that tangent, but I guess just the point is that I think that this AI stuff, it's great and it makes for great sentiment. Although ironically enough, the public is probably going to start hating this stuff now. But I don't think that this actually is a very good investment window. And really, you look at your Bitcoin chart, right? Is that Beamish guy going to suggest that this is a nice, safe, secure investment to make with this kind of price chart? Come on. You know the answer to that. All right, so back to our conversation. I think I had about 20 minutes ago with you guys. Sorry about that. Oh yeah, we got off on the billiard ball tangent. So the billiard ball actually suggests that we probably have to come all the way right back up top, eh? But what I would just simply say with a chart like this is that that's a V top and that's a new high. So it should be tested. This is now a V bottom and a new low since we busted through these lows. So at some point that should be tested. And the interesting thing from a weekly perspective, the moving averages have not turned down. Last week, I talked about how we were basically in a moving average sandwich, and the moving average sandwich did its job. Now, Adam would say 13 EMA acting as resistance. Let's see whether we can recapture it. If we can, then we're right back into bull mode here. I think right now, the moving averages are still pointing bullish. So the trend is still up. It's just we're stuck in this moving average sandwich right now. And what I would simply say here is because this is a new high, then, the whole sort of universe works off of these fractals. So we would get a fractal failure sell signal if we go through the 3-bar fractal low, which is now this low. So this really, ironically enough, even though this price action is uglier than poop, it really hasn't done any technical damage to this other than we took out these recent weak lows here. I'd be curious to see, if you're a follower of that ICT guy, he likes to think of this as a market structure shift signal. But this is an interesting one because I think he needs for the market to close below these lows. And you notice we came right down to those lows. Yeah, we put in a tail, but we never did close below those lows. So I think from his perspective, I can't speak for him, but the market's a collective of all our wisdoms. I think we can make the argument that this market structure shift hasn't actually happened yet. I think if we were closing down in this area below these clotheslines, then we could have serious conversations about how the structure of this market has changed. I think probably the easiest way for you to see that is just simply change this to a line chart. And if we change that to a line chart, all of a sudden that top kind of disappears. And what we're left with is a big ass head and shoulders, something like that. So if you're sitting at home kind of mapping out, you want a fun exercise, what is happening here? Kind of, actually, that's the label. Is it this one? There you go. You can see it a little bit better. I guess maybe it's this one. Yeah, let's do them all. There we go. I get the impression that that's probably what we can glean from this is if this is a top, then it looks like we're carving out some sort of head and shoulders top. And remember that billiard ball fractal, right? We should be thinking, since that is a V top and look left, we got to get through that 13 EMA here in the short term. And off of this chart, right, that's that 16055 number. I wouldn't be surprised if we have to rally up into that level and then just maybe consolidate for a couple weeks. That wouldn't surprise me. Something along those lines. I don't think we're going to have another event like this. I think this was a bit of a one-off. It was, of course, directly tied to a hack or a steal or whatever the fuck you want to call it in crypto space. Con job. It was probably all inside. Did find it interesting that recently, kind of a side topic, mysteriously out of nowhere, Mr. CZ has been pardoned by Donnie. And I wonder, and it is interesting that on that event date, I think you could actually make the argument that that was a bit of a catalyst. Because you notice that on that news, this thing actually went NW bottom there. And I would not be surprised if the deal, of course, Donnie will never say publicly what his deals are, but it would not surprise me one bit that Donnie said, look at, I got involved in this crypto space and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I left it in my son's hands, and one of them seems to be able to pick Ethereum peaks like a fucking boss, although he tells his people to buy those peaks and looks like a fool afterward. I'm not quite sure what the hell that Baron guy is up to, if he's even up to anything. Um, but clearly, and keep in mind, right, this is like here. Clearly, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. And we got to figure out a solution to this. I know. Let's go buy that crypto fucking genius guy that made billions of dollars on this space, and he'll solve our problems. All right, now how the fuck do we buy him? Well, he does have a felony record on his record, and he can't do anything in the United States as long as he's considered a felon, an ex-felon. I don't know. Felon is felon is felon, right? Why don't we go and say to him, look, we'll clear the record for you and make it all squeaky clean, but in exchange, you save our fucking asses because we don't know what the hell we're doing here. And sure enough, boom, in comes a double bottom. Do you think that's an accident? I don't think so. So I put out like a tweet like fucking crony capitalism for the win here. So I actually like the idea that CZ event was actually the catalyst that sort of put the bottom in the market. Then we've gone over to the total. Whoa, what the fuck's going on here? That looks like a 3-bar fractal on the other side of a trend line. Son of a bitch, this thing's actually pointing up. Hey, this actually looks like a W in this space. You got to be kidding me. So, when we were going through this event here a couple of weeks ago, I was just like, you know what? Let's just leave this shit alone. I don't want to talk about it. Obviously, huge scandal. Tons of kids got absolutely destroyed through this. Fucking Donnie capitalism for the win, folks. And unfortunately, in an unregulated space, this is what you have to expect out of nowhere. It can happen at any time. And I suppose what we could do is if we drew a fib off of that entire range, I bet, like off of the actual original bottoms, wherever the hell they were, I bet that this was nothing more than just a 38.2 of that whole range. So anyway, just off of this particular range, reload zones, came back, stabbed old trend line. All the kids, of course, got absolutely destroyed. Poor kids. Anybody trading leverage got wiped out here on this. So at the very least, what we had to do is just let this thing stabilize. Well, she has stabilized. So that's kind of an interesting image. Not the best bottom off of this turn. 3-bar fractal. So if you're trading that 3-bar fractal, then you have to risk against this low. And if it gets busted, you better get the fuck out of there. There is a very realistic possibility. This is capitalism. This is taco shit market, state, Basant fucking you over right, left, and center. There is a very real possibility that we have to walk down this trend line from the other side. So this is why, especially new people to trading, I really don't like you to take just trend line breaks. You really should have some sort of structure on the other side of this trend line to frame your risk. Now, this one's a little bit cheeky because it's only a 3-bar fractal. Ideally, in a perfect world, right? We'd want to see up, down, up, nice test of these lows, then turn back up, and all right, we got ourselves a new bull market. We're not quite there yet. But anybody who had balls, and the way that I mean, you're not really going to trade this crypto three. What I would just simply say is use this to help you frame sort of what is the expectation in the marketplace over the near term. Trend is still down. Moving averages are bearish. You can see how we fought at Adams 13 EMA and the 3-bar fractal. We confirmed above it, and we also recaptured this important downtrend line here, which I think is acting as sort of like a bull bear battle line for the marketplace right now. So we've recaptured it on a 3-bar fractal. In the near term, the path of least resistance is up. So that's a good sign. Got to feel pretty good about that. You know, this is such a good example of what once was resistance, then turns into support, then comes back. Oh, right. Well, we come right back, although absolutely insane tails. We just basically settle in right at this moving average again. Resistance to a certain degree, then support, then resistance, then support, and maybe this will actually turn into some sort of floor here. Great illustration of how moving averages, how trend lines can turn from support into resistance into support again. And also too, how trend lines act as sort of like magnets, right? Because everybody and their brother draws these simple trend lines. All it is just play connect the dots, boom, boom. So everybody and their brother draws these lines on their charts. And so what a big surprise. The market ends up oscillating right off of these trend lines because everybody has them on their charts. In the near term, I would say 30 SMA and probably 1.618, good old Foggenbombs. That's that one. What was that number we said on Bitcoin? Oh, I got rid of it. Do I have it over here? Oh, fudge. Oh, weird how that. Where was it up here? There we are. So, the shit coins, they're rallying up against resistance. This guy here wants to get up into that 116 neighborhood. So that's probably the same as this guy here. And hopefully you can see that billiard ball fractal kind of concept here as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we've got this 1.618, actually a cluster of them. We got the 30 SMA, candle body highs and lows for trade location, trap bulls all up in these wicks that would desperately like release. Kind of like our Bitcoin, that billiard ball fractal kind of idea. I wouldn't be surprised if we look something like that. So, and then the $64,000 question is, do we have to do a candle like that over here? I don't think so, because I think that's what, do you call it a red herring? I think that's the expression for it. Like, this was a bit of an anomaly event. So I don't know whether we really have to come all the way back down here, but I wouldn't be surprised that, over the course of the coming week, we saw the crypto stocks were looking uppy. We saw Bitcoin itself was looking uppy. I don't see any reason why these guys can't also move a bit higher here. But once we do get into this window here, and thinking that concept on the other side of horizontal support and resistance, I would expect a bit of a pause. And I have a feeling this whole market is going to be moving into this end of October, beginning of November pivot, and the whole silly thing with Trump and Winnie the Pooh. And what the hell happens with tariffs on November 1st. So that's what I think's going on here. And very simply put, if that doesn't go very well, like I think this is like a buy the rumor and then sell the news. I wouldn't be surprised if actually not a hell of a lot comes out of that meeting. And because not a lot of it comes out of the meeting, we see the market have to sort of take a bit of a pause following that. But we have a bit of a vacuum right now heading into that meeting. And I think it's planned for some time over the next week. In fact, I think Trump's actually going to Asia right now, and meeting with like the Koreans and the Japanese and all that kind of stuff. And as a result, I don't think there's going to be a hell of a lot of headwinds in front of the market heading into that. But once we get on the other side of that China meeting, and once we get into that early November deadline window, then if there is more selling to be done on these things, I think that's when it happens. So, if anything, we probably have a week or two of a little bit of a reprieve here. Be interesting to see what next week's candle looks like. All right, well, that gives you a pretty good idea what I'm seeing here on the corn. Keep in mind, in fact, we should probably even just put it on here. Right there. And maybe this is on the anticipation that the shit hits the fan with China. But we should probably put in here Allen guarantees 400K BTC. So then that way, let's actually right in the center. Should probably make this like really big. So I don't know whether that happens, but according to Alan, we're supposed to go absolutely insane bullish here. I don't know. We'll see. Only time will tell. So I'm not quite sure how I did it, but I basically spent about 2 hours just talking in circles. Sorry, folks. I suppose to finish off this broadcast for you, take a look at a couple of the other little ones, sort of intermediates, let's call it that. I think a lot of these shit coins, they're kind of just stuck here. It'll be interesting to see whether they have any oomph in them going forward. I would expect to see W's and stuff start to form before I get bullish, but things like Ethereum, I had posted in the lounge on Friday, just so you see that I have a fairly consistent message. Okay. All right. Well, then I won't belabor this too much. Just thinking that Ethereum needed to go through a consolidation phase, and we just had to wait for the consolidation phase to finish. If you were bearish, I don't think this really set up very well. So kind of just floundering here. Stops would be above those highs. It does kind of look like this thing's trying to W out. This is a lower close here, though. Higher close off of this. So I just kind of think this thing's stuck in a range still. It does look like we are nearing the end of this consolidation phase that I was hoping to see. And, if crypto is a bull and, Trump's, I think his kid came in and said, buy Ethereum here, way to go, right on. So if anything, consistency out of Trump, I suppose that's a good sign. I don't know whether I really am very bullish of this. This to me just looks like it's stuck in a massive trading range. You might have some fucking white knight compiling in here on volume. Volume just, it looks very suspicious here. So nothing to really get excited about. But you can see momentum is trying to turn back up here. Don't even really have any divs. We just have a whole bunch of, just higher highs and higher lows and everything together. So I suppose that's a good thing. 1W in RSI. If we can punch up through this high, we'll get a second W in RSI. So that number is 48.91, sitting right now 49.74. So that in itself actually is a very strong momentum signal. We see MACD's flipping positive. So I wouldn't be surprised if this thing's got some legs behind it here in the near term. But again, is this sort of like a just we're in kind of a bit of a vacuum right now? Institutional players probably backing away to see what the hell happens over there in Asia with Trump and Winnie and all that shit. That's what it kind of feels like to me right now. But having said that, I am noticing a lot of little cryptos, including my little piece of shit. And I don't understand this at all. This thing's actually spitting out a buy signal. And this is trading with Brian Coin. What the hell's going on here? And I even like tweeted out, I said, well, it looks like I'm a buy. I have no idea why I'm a buy, but somebody came in here and bought in size. And, they're not stunning numbers, but somebody's buying here. And the silly thing's moving up. So, in a weird sort of way, I kind of think that's what's going on in the entire crypto space. It's kind of like, all the kids got absolutely destroyed through that, and they were all liquidated. So the kind of is like what's the path of least resistance right now? There's nobody else to sell because everybody who was long got completely liquidated, and we're sort of stuck in this vacuum right now. And I think to believe whatever the next real signal is, we need to see the volume. We actually need to see participation actually come in here and validate whatever the next leg is. It's interesting how on a momentum basis, I think just simply because there just aren't any sellers, anybody that could sell was liquidated through this event. So now we have a bit of a vacuum, and the path of least resistance in the near term, because there are no more sellers, is up, not down. So that's what I think is going on there. And also, too, this week is a Fed week coming up here. Fed usually, of course, likes to poop on our parades. I think that's Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. So don't be shocked if the whole risk market, Bitcoin, the total, this whole market is actually rallying up on that kind of like buy the rumor, sell the news, because everybody is convinced that the Fed's going to lower rates dramatically here. So there's also that at play as well here. And then finally, looking at the poop coins, we'll just take a quick boo at Solana, which I think is sort of number 3 in the world now. And I don't think the message is a heck of a lot different. There he is. You can see the W trying to come in, even though it was on a lower low, but then we had a higher low here. It's a very mixed message, kind of that. It's not really the same image, but kind of that billiard ball fractal-y kind of image, which means we probably should rally up to 1.618 here, test this high, and then, look left on the other side of that event. We dumped all the way back down here. So if we think about that billiard ball fractal kind of thing, I think it's there to 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 there, whatever the hell this there is, and then up if the path is up. So that's kind of what I'm thinking out of Solana as well. So buy the rumor into the Fed, buy the rumor into China, Trump. Interesting horizontal support and resistance level right at the apex of 2 really important trend lines and a 1.618. So if you are thinking about selling some Solanas, I would keep a real sharp eye on about somewhere between 210 and 215 area. Other than that, not a heck of a lot else for me to get excited about here. So I think actually we're seeing a theme here, right? Big wipeout, big fuck you, a whole bunch of people destroyed, settling down, following the big FU move, starting to paint what looks to appear to be higher lows and higher highs. And we're starting to get the smatterings of bottoms coming in here. And I noticed there are some individual names, like I think ZEC is a very popular name right now. There are some names that are rallying. So, they always say you can always find a bull somewhere. So, just hunt your charts. I would strongly suggest you avoid investing in names that look like this. I think there are lots and lots of little shit coins out there that I actually think are investment grade. I think it's just really a question. I've always liked this RLC. You can see how it came back down against this bottom. You can see cute little W's trying to form in here. This is definitely a little old lady kind of investment environment. I mean, has this thing got any room to move up here over time? I don't really have a problem with little old ladies investing here, but we're not in that crypto kind of environment that was sort of a hallmark of the fear cycle. If anything, I would expect something like this. This is a buy when it snows, sell when it goes kind of scenario. And I think actually a lot of these cryptos are now turning into growth stories. They're not the value stories that, the reason why I got involved in crypto to begin with, store of value, commodity, try and avoid the whole great resetting and getting fucked by Klaus and all them. I think this is now more, real world assets, tokenization of the entire financial system, nothing to do with value and everything to do with what is the growth story of your particular crypto. So, I mean, if you are a little old lady, well, you're just bag holding right now. And if anything, I really like the idea: buy when it snows, sell when it goes, just like I would play the stock market. And I didn't even talk stock market here today. I've got at least a half a dozen new VCIM names that are all popping up, and VCIM names and stock picks from previous cycles have been just absolutely booming. So I definitely think we're into a stock pickers market, which means that for you crypto fans, I think we're in a crypto pickers market. Not so much the broader market trend, but what's your individual story, right? And I might even argue that there is probably some very specific fundamental reason why this is acting the way that it is. And this would be a coin pickers market. You can see the bottom that came in here in August, September. And had you bought that W, oh boy, you'd be feeling pretty damn good about life right now. And so that's kind of the market state that I think that we're in. So go and find me some really good fundamental stories within the crypto space versus just blindly buying crypto with the anticipation that just a rising tide lifts all boats, because I don't think we're in that kind of environment anymore. All right, there's my summary. Sure hope you enjoyed that. We'll pop on over to the AMA document and just see whether I can speak to these questions over the next 10, 15 minutes. Then the next thing I would ask is you all wish Liam and I good luck on the roads this afternoon. And I will bid you all a fond adieu. All right. Glass Insight says, I can see it. This is super cool. All right. That's the billiard ball fractal, maybe kind of thinking. Cool. Well, maybe people actually learned something new today. That'd be kind of cool. All right. So 26th of October. Geez, can you believe it's already almost Halloween? So it looks like both BTC and ETH are now bullish on the MACD on the daily chart. This has taken a while. All right. I guess is ZEC bullish on the daily charts? Let's just do it there so we have a clean chart. Okay. Yeah, kind of like what I was saying there earlier when we looked at the ETH. It is spitting out a bit of a momentum buy signal here. I really don't like how low volume is here, though. Yeesh, something doesn't look right about this. Anyway, all right, back to the question. Does any of that signal a rally to you? All right, well, I think I told you my 2 cents there. Think that billiard ball theory kind of thinking. Also, fundamentally speaking, it looks like Trump and Z are on the verge of a deal. Well, Yeah. What is it? How does the expression go? I'm from Missouri. Any chance you will jump back in on this good news, both fundamental as well as technical? Any chance you will jump back in? Well, keep in mind, I'm already long up to the boobs. I've got a hell of a lot of long on the books. So maybe you're misinterpreting my I am officially bearish of crypto. This is now an environment for me specifically where if I get paid on my ideas, I no longer think about buying crypto with the profits. And actually, this ETH is a perfectly good example. Um, my profits are going into cash. So, ETH here, I don't know whether you can do it or not, but I bought and I am still long from 1,500 bucks. This is where I was supposed to buy, and that's where I bought. So, aside from all this fun stuff. So, here I am, long from 1,500. I let half of it go, of course, at 31, 3,200, somewhere in that area. And I am more than happy to let another half go up at 6,200, 6,300, right up in there. So, and really, if anything, this makes perfect sense. I can see there to there and there to there. I could see that. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I'd even go from there to there, all the way up there to there. So I took cash and converted it into crypto here. I am crypto bullish. Here, and I guess I rebought here because we did do that, and then when I saw this, I reloaded. I took the crypto and sold it to cash, but even when we were in here prior to that cycle event, right, which of course was right there. Here, I was more than happy to take that cash and recycle it back into more crypto and buy more crypto names. But as of this point now, if there is any further profits to be taken, and you know me, I'll be more than happy to bang out doubles and all that kind of fun stuff. That goes into cash, not more cryptos. So that's what I mean by I am no longer officially crypto bullish. I've actually rolled over, and now any profits that are booked go to cash. So that's what I mean by that. So am I, and I mean, just look at this image. Am I likely to tell you that this is a good place to invest in crypto right now? No. So what I would probably say is, oh, what a surprise. I think I'll probably just throw my order to buy this stuff back. And of course, we all know that I've said this repeatedly. My next buy window starts in like September there. So I'm actually more than happy to look to buy the Ethereum back at, I bought at 1,500. Maybe I have to pay 2,100 this next cycle, but I'm not going to be buying Ethereum there. Just that's not going to happen. All right, so hopefully that speaks to that question. You can make the same logic argument with Bitcoin. I did that at the beginning of this video where I think probably around 30,000, 40,000 is probably the buy level if these current highs hold. All right, number 2. Hi, Brian. What will happen to TRI after you leave? I don't know. That's not really anything up to me. That's up to whoever TRI is, whoever's driving the bus at TRI when I'm gone. So I can't comment on that. I think one of the principals, Julian, does a video every now and then for the site. So that would be a good question to ask him, not me. Will you still keep your share in the company? No, I just simply am walking away. Complete loss of all invested dollars in this project. But that's probably the best thing for me is just got to walk away. If you're leaving entirely, will you at least continue doing Sunday shows on YouTube? Yeah, I'll have my own YouTube channel. Ironically enough, what I'm just basically going to do is start from scratch and just rebuild my company and my website, my service, and my education program with 100% control of my destiny. So, yeah, I mean, basically, I wouldn't even be surprised if the Sunday following the day that I leave, boom, new show up and running on new channels. I'm not going to shill anything here. What I've just simply said is if you are a follower of mine and you'd like to continue following me, the service, this Substack webpage that I've created, 100% free. And it's just a way that you can keep track of me and everything that I do, I'm doing over here. And it's just trading with Brian. So the easiest way for you to just keep abreast with whatever I'm doing is to just simply sign up for that. It's totally free. Shouldn't be any conflict of interest. You want to continue at TRI? Great. No skin off my back. Just do whatever your heart tells you is best. So I hope that answers that question. Number 3, hey Brian, if I recall correctly, you expected the alt season at the end of 25 or the beginning of 26. It kind of feels like that's what they're going to do here. Do you still think that alt season will happen? Well, I suppose if you're in that ZEC, it's happening as we speak. I did bang out a couple doubles in crypto land here over the past little while. So as I've said to you before, what I really think is this is a coin picker's market. And I hate to say it, I think this is an entirely crony capitalism market. My suggestion actually is you want to make money in crypto, probably a good idea to go pick up some of Donnie's piece of shit exchange here. Although the original post that I made about this was, why would anybody that actually is a crypto enthusiast even consider going to this place? It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Why would you do that? And the only reason I think he did this was to get all of his MAGA audience, the millions of mindless followers. I mean, it's remarkable to see how humans act. I think it was basically to get them all to sign up to his platform and buy whatever cryptos through him just because they love him so much. But I can't
Recording
see why.
stopped.
And well, recording just ended, eh? Oh well, that's 2 hours. So I think that's what's going on here. And I've said this all along. There's no way in hell this guy, for lack of a better term, is going to let the crypto market have a bull market without him directly benefiting. So, ironically enough, just follow him and all of his crony capitalism, and you'll probably do fine in this space. Just for God's sakes, do not listen to his kids on investment advice. And why they're actually giving investment advice publicly, there's another massive conflict of interest. All the regulators should be suing that guy into the ground. But of course, they're not because this society is completely corrupt. So go figure. Anyway, so my answer to that is I would not be surprised that crypto has now been basically securitized, and it's actually going to follow the very normal seasonal patterns that the entire stock market follows. Buy when it snows, sell when it goes. So sometime in the spring, I think, is probably where this market peak comes in. And I would expect into that spring window, we're going to have the Gucci sweater wearers all coming out in full force, get rich quick, the Eric Trump nonsense. Look how smart I am when really I'm an absolutely horrible timer, and all that kind of thing. So I still think that that's ahead of us. I'm probably going to be long gone from TRI by time that actually happens. And if anything, I'd actually kind of like to see that, because I'd like to see this community and these people and these principles do well. And if anything, me leaving is a complete minor event. You don't even notice it because you're all so completely wrapped up with how much money you're making and how wonderful the crypto bull market is. So a nice rally into the end of the year, actually, I think would be very appropriate, and it would be a perfect window for me to just slowly, quietly slide on out of here. So anyway, that's my answer to number 3. And then finally, number 4. Hey, Brian, Ivan from Ivan on Tech has been super vocal lately about BTC taking off when the MACD is bullish on the daily. All right. Everybody's entitled to an opinion, right? It's just that simple. I like that. Sidonia. I totally forgot about her, eh? If I have purple hair and I have like a big nose ring or something, then you'll know my name has been officially converted to Sedona. And that was it Sedona or Sidonia or something like that. Remember that? That was funny. All right, back to this. Ivan from Ivan on Tech. Super bullish when MACD is bullish on the daily. All right. It appears to be that situation now. Do you see this as the start of a small bull run? Well, I think I walked through my expectations of Bitcoin and the total and Ethereum and Solana, and they all seem to have that same level, that 116 number, I think we said as a reference point here. What the hell was it? I guess it was back over here. Anyway, so I still think that that's what we're gunning for here in the near term. And what I would also say too is I think that big catalyst around, oh, that's not what I wanted. Big catalyst around the Fed coming up here, and big catalyst around, I guess it was the index that I did that off of. Yeah. Big catalyst around Winnie the Pooh and Taco. So my feeling here, for whatever it's worth, is this is what I'm thinking our near term is. It is what it is. And this is the best part. And I hope Donnie reminds Winnie the Pooh of this. This is actually the perfect note to end a video like this off of. This is our Western civilization here, people. This is how critical this window is that we're going through here. Just keep in mind, if you lived in Winnie the Pooh, China, or Vladdy the Dickhead, Russia, or any of those kind of countries, you can't have these opinions. And especially if they're contrary to Vladdy or Winnie's desires, you can't have that. So if anything, this question, what you see on the screen here, this is the hallmark of our Western civilization. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion. You can put your money to work with wherever you want. I don't recommend that you trade opinions, but you are free to have that opinion. And it's the beauty of this incredible experiment that was started a couple hundred years ago with this American Revolution and French Revolution and this sort of modern enlightened world that we live in that we are actually allowed to have our own opinions. I will never discount somebody for having their own opinion. We are this is what makes our society so special, and really is why socialist, communist, totalitarian dictatorships, why they always fail. Because at the end of it, all it comes down to is one strong man versus another, and whoever's last standing, they're the ones who make the rules. But you can't run a marketplace like that because everybody's going to get the fuck out of there. I'm not sticking around to see who fucking wins this duel. And quite often, the people that do place their bets in those kind of environments, if you're on the wrong side of that duel, your life is toast. So I hope you can all really appreciate how lucky we are in the West. Ivan, I mean, I don't know whether Ivan's from Russia, but I can tell you if he was from Russia, it sounds like kind of a Russian name, and Mr. Putin disagreed with Ivan, Ivan could actually find himself accidentally falling out of an apartment building window without his consent. And you all know what I mean by that. So embrace the fact that we all are entitled to our own opinions. This is what makes our Western civilization so beautiful and so coveted. And unfortunately, it's in big question right now. And I don't see anybody in our society actually standing up for basic principles. And what scares me is in my country alone, you can literally see those principles being eroded on a daily basis by these would-be dictators. It wouldn't surprise me if the leader of this country here, you accidentally find 2 or 3 years from now, he's actually decided that there doesn't need to be any more elections, that he is now ruler for life. And instantly, all of those beautiful freedoms that we all enjoyed, the ability to have your own opinion, all of a sudden that all just vanishes. It's kind of sad. So, I mean, hopefully, what I'm trying to drive home to you is this is a good thing that we have different opinions. I don't know whether I necessarily agree with, oh, we're going into some super cycle or something like that. I mean, the market's going to do what the market's going to do. And I think I'll just leave it at this image. I'm not in the business of calling tops and bottoms in markets. That's not what I do. I'm in the business of executing my edge. And, 30, 40 years playing this game, I personally believe that we humans move in very cyclic behavior. And my edge, of course, is I buy W's, I sell M's. But I just have to respect the message of the market here. This may not even set up a trade for me, but I have to respect the fact that literally over the course of the life of this asset does like to top out at 1.382 fib time extensions based on the halvening cycles. So all I'm saying to you people is, can you appreciate that until we actually get to this 1.618 point in this cycle, you are basically now playing the game with the wind in your face. You are swimming against the tide. I'm not calling tops or bottoms here. The market's going to do whatever the hell the market does. All I'm simply saying is there was a time to be uberly bullish. That time for me has passed. If you want to take this market higher, great. I got plenty of crypto to sell you at higher prices. But for the time being, I won't be buying any new crypto anytime soon. It's just that simple. All right. I think I'll leave it at that. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for the karmic wishes for Liam and I on the road, Mr. Insights. Appreciate it. Wish all of you out there in Interland the best. And thank you very much, Floris, for those kind wishes over there in the YouTube audience. Also from the FOMO phobist. All right. All right. Thank you, MM. You know where to find me. I gave you the coordinates. Thank you, Jim and Liz. You are a gentleman and a lady at the same. Yeah, those TMS. You're obviously in the ZEC trade, so rock on. I mean, setups are setups. There's nice W's at bottom ends of ranges that came in there. So it really doesn't surprise me what's going on. And I think on that note, for God's sakes, everybody, please covet your freedoms. Cover the fact that you actually have the ability to have an opinion. Because when that's taken away from us, then all of this game disappears. And I fear for what happens to something like a Bitcoin in that world. All right, everybody, all the best. Hugs and kisses. Remember what your number one job is. Try not to take no wooden nickels. PMA for the win. Slow and steady wins the race. The only thing left to say to you good people is a hearty bye for now.